Rise and Shine begins with a Gears of War soldier and Link shooting each other to death, and then the hero of time gives the child a gun. It's that kind of game. Hey there, you've just entered Lightspace, and I'm the lightspaceman. Please enjoy the broadcast. Released on PC in 2017 under the Adult Swim Games label, Rise and Shine is the classical story of a boy and man's best friend.
I have the power of God!
Or Shine, a talking gun that speaks entirely in snarky one-liners. Rise uses this magical weapon to blast enemies, solve puzzles, and try not to die. Rise and Shine is a game about war, just not in the way you usually see. It's a battle of eras in gaming, modern versus retro, and it's the core idea that informs both the wacky meta story and its mechanics. The first thing that will probably jump out at someone when looking at Rise and Shine is its detailed and varied level design. The hand-drawn backgrounds create beautiful landscapes, whether they be corrupted, war-torn battlefields or tranquil island vistas. It's clearly where the team placed a lot of its focus, and it seems to be a specialty of the devs at, let me just make sure I have this right here, Super Awesome Hyperdimensional Mega Team. Now that's a brand that screams confidence. But is it more than just a pretty face? Rise and Shine wasn't exactly what I was expecting at first glance. It looks like a modern-ish take on arcade classics like Metal Slug or even its later counterparts like Alien Hominid. And there is some of that DNA in there, but in practice it's more of a bullet-themed series of puzzles than a run-and-gun shooter. In fact, it almost seems to be mocking that expectation at times. You do not want to run and gun in this game, because if you do, you'll be dead before you even know what hit you. I'm typically more of an action guy than a puzzle guy, so this theming doesn't go unappreciated by me. I found the puzzles to be intuitive and fun, because I solved them without looking up a guide, and that's kind of my only criteria. The whole game has that puzzle-like feel, including the combat, and that's where the modern versus arcade concept I mentioned comes in. For all its references and retro aesthetics, it's mostly a cover shooter. It's unique in that I can't remember ever having played a 2D cover shooter. Enemy prioritization is more important to winning than your aim. It's an interesting style, but it has its drawbacks. Rise and Shine is very set-piece driven, and that's not a problem in itself. Most of them are pretty good. I especially like this one with the zombies in the underground tunnel. It's pitch black unless you're aiming. It sells the atmosphere it's going for well. But arcade-style games are designed for fast runs, efficient routing, and consistent mechanics that incentivize replayability. Much like those games, Rise and Shine isn't very long. You can finish it in a couple of hours if you know what you're doing, but at that point there isn't much of a reason to go back to it. The only problem with a set piece is that once you've seen it, you'll know the one way to solve it every time. There's no scoring system or New Game Plus to keep you coming back to improve your skills, other than an Iron Man mode. Nah, not for me, thanks. And there's not much use in trying to use the handful of weapon augments you get outside of puzzle solving anyway. I wouldn't call it a hard game, but it doesn't let you mess around like that. You know that sequelitis episode, the Mega Man X one, where he explains how games teach you by playing through visual cues? This game doesn't always do that. It's more than happy to just kill you and laugh about it, which is why it never sets you back very far. Mind you, I didn't say I was good at games. If it seems like I'm doing alright, it's because I cut out the many times I died. So your mileage may vary. They even turned it into a puzzle, which I thought was pretty clever. I'd say it's the funniest puzzle in the game, which reminds me, this is kind of a parody game if you haven't noticed, so it's trying to be funny, and we should talk about that. Rise and Shine is not a game about war. That was a lie, I lied to you. Rise and Shine is a game about games, specifically the gaming trends that were happening around the time it came out. A time when the worst thing that could happen to gaming seemed to be getting taken over by modern military shooter aesthetics. Things were simpler back then. I mean, it's set on the planet Game Earth during an attack by the formerly peaceful Next-Genians. It's not subtle. It's all about homaging and parodying classic gaming tropes. To mixed results, I would say. I don't want to be too hard on the game's humor. 2015 or 16 or whenever they were writing this was like 1,000 years ago in internet culture. And I'm keeping it in that context, but even with that said, the story can't rise above feeling a little like a webcomic from 2007. It's not terrible, it just isn't asking to be taken very seriously, so I'm not. But it didn't hit me as all that funny most of the time. It has its moments though. I think the edginess manages to swing around to being quaint, charming.
Oh my god, it's not funny.
Mario f***ing dies. The meta jokes and violence will come off as more or less juvenile depending on the person. Spoilers for an almost 10-year-old game, but it ends with Rise defeating the evil Gears of War army and his evil Star Wars dad by just deleting them from the game. Oh, so the regenerating health is on his dad's side. Is that a dumb way to end a game? It could be, but I think it's neat. And if there's one gag that justifies it all, it's this.
Ah, you mother... Oh, son of a bitch.
No, wait. Can I?
Your life is nothing. You serve zero purpose.
I like meta games. Stuff like No More Heroes and Hotline Miami are in my all-time favorites. Rise and Shine story isn't trying to be anything that thoughtful or biting, but it's fine for what it is. This is the part where I would usually mention the music, so there you go, I mentioned it. Nah, it's not a bad soundtrack, it's just a little stock. It's alright at selling the retro adventure vibe, but it never stood out to me as something worth listening to outside of playing it. The last thing I want to ask, mostly just for fun, is where does this fit into the Adult Swim library? Does it have that Adult Swim feel? There is a variety to the styles of Adult Swim shows, but there's a general through line of absurdity that obviously inform their lineup of games. So does Rise and Shine fit that vibe at all? Well, with its bright, clean aesthetic and somewhat cutesy character designs, you might think it's more inspired by Cartoon Network shows like Adventure Time than Adult Swim. But don't be fooled, this game is evil. It will murder you and feel nothing. That's where the best jokes come from in this game. That contrast between upbeat, pastel cartooniness and over-the-top violence actually reminds me of Super Jail or Rick and Morty. The shows that like to mess with your expectations based on what they look like. And that's what I liked about this game. As an Adult Swim fan, I got that crazy energy I was looking for. So that's Rise and Shine, a flawed and beautiful little Adult Swim gem that proves there's no problem that can't be solved with a bullet. Thanks for having me on, guys. Check out the Lightspaceman channel, and I will see you in the next one.